Rain hammers the Seoul skyline like 1,000 angry fists. Not the kind of rain that passes. The kind that erases everything beneath it. Streets become rivers, neon signs bleed into darkness, the city transforms into something unrecognizable. On the 47th floor of his penthouse, King sits untouched by the storm. The office around him is immaculate. Mahogany desk, leather chairs that cost more than most people's homes, floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the city like a possession. Everything is exactly where it should be. Everything is under control. A contract waits on his desk. One signature and a family's business disappears by morning. He's done this 1,000 times. Means nothing to him. It's just business. His phone buzzes. A text from his driver. Miss Lillian's pickup delayed due to weather. Will arrive home by 9 p.m. King makes a note. Files it away. Returns to the contract. He doesn't know it yet, but this is the last moment of normalcy he'll ever have. Then the call comes. Not filtered through his assistant. Not routed through layers of protection. Direct. A blocked number flashes on his screen. King almost ignores it, but something makes him answer. The voice on the other end is calm. Almost apologetic. Hello, King. My name is Victor. I have someone who belongs to you. King's hand freezes mid-reach for his drink. At 3:47 p.m. today, your daughter was collected from school. She's safe. For now. But you have 48 hours to find her. And King? Pause. The sound of rain in the background of the call. The same rain hammering outside King's window. You have a choice. Bring your men, your money, your empire. Or come alone. But only one option ends with your daughter alive. The line goes dead. If this story has you hooked, hit the like and subscribe button and stay till the end. King's hands shake as he sets the phone down. This is the first time in 15 years his hands have shaken. But now they won't stop. The Scotch glass sits untouched beside his phone. The contract, suddenly meaningless, waits on his desk. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. He simply stares at the blocked number on his screen, trying to process a reality that doesn't fit into any category his mind understands. Lillian. His daughter. Gone. Within seconds, his office transforms into something unrecognizable. Advisors flood in. Security operatives activate protocols he set up years ago for exactly this kind of crisis. His assistant is on the phone with police. Another assistant is coordinating with his intelligence network. A third is pulling records trying to trace the call. They move like a well-oiled machine, efficient and precise, because this is what they do. This is what they've been trained for. But King is stationary. He sits at his desk, phone in hand, staring at the blocked number. Around him, voices rise and fall in rapid Korean, updating him on progress, asking for orders. Possible locations. Call traces. Intelligence from street contacts. But King doesn't hear them. He hears only silence. Only the memory of Lillian's voice asking him something he didn't listen to because he was checking emails. He's trying to remember the last real conversation he had with her. A week ago. 2 weeks? She'd shown him a drawing from school. Something she'd made in art class. She'd held it out to him with that careful hope children have when they've created something they think is important. He'd looked at it for maybe 3 seconds while his phone buzzed with messages. That's nice, Lillian, he'd said, and then she'd left. What was the drawing of? He can't remember. Marcus appears at his side. Marcus, his most trusted advisor for 15 years, approaches carefully, as if King might break if handled too roughly. Sir, we're working on locating the call origin. We have 3 possible locations. Our team is ready to move on your word. We're also contacting. Does she know I love her? King asked. His voice sounds strange to him. Hollow. Like it's coming from somewhere very far away. Marcus pauses. His mouth opens and closes. He doesn't understand the question. Sir? Lillian. Does she know I love her? Marcus doesn't answer because they both know the truth. King has kept his daughter in a penthouse suite, attended by nannies and tutors, fed and clothed and sheltered like some expensive possession. But he's barely spoken to her in years. He's treated her like an heir to be molded, not a daughter to be known. He's been present in her life the way a sculpture is present in a room, taking up space but not actually alive. We'll find her, sir, Marcus says finally, his voice careful and measured. We'll bring her home. But King hears what he's not saying. And then what? Then you'll keep her at the same distance? Then you'll pretend to love her while ignoring her? Then you'll go back to your contracts and your business and she'll go back to her nannies, and nothing will change except that you'll know you could have lost her? King stands without speaking and walks out of the office. His advisors call after him, but he doesn't hear them. He walks through the hallway on pure instinct, moving toward the east wing of his penthouse where Lillian's room is located. The rain continues its assault against the windows. The city lights blur. He stops at her bedroom door. It's immaculate. Everything in its place. Expensive toys arranged just so on shelves that look like they've never been touched. Books organized by color. A perfectly made bed with hospital corners so precise it looks like no one has ever slept in it. It looks like a museum of childhood, like a display case in a store showcasing what a rich man's daughter should own. It doesn't look like a room where a child lives. King sits on the edge of her bed and the dam breaks. His shoulders shake silently. No sound comes out at first. Just the physical convulsion of a man whose entire understanding of his own life is collapsing in real time. He spent 7 years protecting her from the world while keeping her at arm's length. 7 years building an empire supposedly for her safety while making himself completely unavailable to her. 7 years of being a father in name only. And now, when she needs him most, he's powerless. The rain hammers harder against the window. In the distance, Seoul continues without him. Indifferent, uncaring, a city that doesn't know its king is kneeling on his daughter's bed, finally understanding what he's done. 48 hours becomes a deadline that consumes everything. Time stops being measured in minutes and seconds and becomes only a countdown toward the moment when either everything changes or everything ends. The police arrive within an hour. King hates them immediately. They're competent and professional and completely useless. They ask questions about Lillian's routines, her friends, her favorite places. They activate missing person protocols. But King can see it in their eyes. They don't believe she'll be found. Not like this. Not with a ransom demand and a clear antagonist. This ends one of two ways and neither of them are good. Negotiations are attempted through official channels. Victor ignores every call, every message, every attempt to establish dialogue. His demands remain exactly as stated. King comes alone, no weapons, no tricks. 50-50 odds that Lillian lives. Marcus practically lives in King's penthouse now. He barely sleeps. His eyes are hollow with the kind of exhaustion that comes from watching your boss slowly disintegrate. The inner circle is frantic. This is a trap, they say. Obvious. Victor will kill King the moment he arrives, then dispose of the girl to remove the evidence. It's suicide to go alone. It's insanity. But King doesn't care about the trap. He only cares about the clock ticking. 24 hours pass. 30 hours. The sun rises and sets and Lillian is still gone. Then Marcus brings him the information he didn't want. I found out who Victor is, Marcus says. His voice is careful. He's been dreading this moment. King looks up from the phone, where he's been staring at Victor's number as if he can summon an answer through willpower alone. Who? His name is Victor Min. 7 years ago, you ordered the elimination of his import business. It was a front for a rival operation. During the takedown, his warehouse caught fire. 2 casualties. The words float in the air between them like poison. Who? King asks again, though he already knows. His wife. And his teenage daughter. King doesn't move. He doesn't breathe. The room seems to tilt slightly, as if the laws of gravity have shifted and nothing is quite secure anymore. They were supposed to be gone, Marcus continues quietly. According to the intel, the building was supposed to be empty. But they were there. In the back office. Your men didn't know. King remembers the operation vaguely. It was one order among thousands. Just business. Necessary. A rival organization operating in his territory, skimming profits, establishing supply lines without permission. The solution was simple and clean. Remove the threat. Contain the fallout. Move on to the next problem. But for Victor it was everything. His wife. His daughter. Gone because King decided they were expendable. King realizes with sick certainty. Lillian is Victor's daughter just as she is King's. The symmetry is perfect. Cruel. Deserved. This isn't a kidnapping. It's a reckoning. Victor has created a mirror, and King is forced to see himself reflected in it, not as a powerful man, but as a man who has destroyed families without hesitation. A man who signed an order that orphaned a child, and then forgot about it by morning. And now his own child is paying the price. King has 12 hours left. He finally knows the truth. He's not facing an enemy. He's facing justice. He stands without speaking and walks to the window. The city glitters below, beautiful and terrible and completely indifferent to his suffering. He built this. All of it. Not for Lillian, he realizes now. For himself. To prove he was powerful. To prove he was untouchable. To prove he was worthy of existence. And in proving all of those things, he lost the one thing that actually mattered. I'm going alone, King says quietly. Sir, it's a trap. We can. No, King says. We can't. There's no negotiation possible with someone willing to die. There's no outsmarting someone who has nothing left to lose. And there's no protecting Lillian by being King the crime boss. She needs her father. The coordinates come in at 10 p.m. An abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, past the industrial zones where the city thins out into empty spaces and forgotten places. King is instructed to come at midnight. Alone. No weapons. No tricks. His team begs him not to go. Marcus practically threatens him, his voice cracking with desperation. It's a trap, Marcus says for the 100th time. Victor is going to kill you, King. And then Lillian will die too. This is how it ends if you go alone. Please, let us surround the building. We can send in a team, negotiate from a position of strength. But King sees the reality clearly now. Marcus is still thinking like a crime boss. He's still operating under the assumption that power and strategy and superior resources can solve any problem. But this isn't that kind of situation. Victor isn't motivated by money or territory or the traditional markers of success. He's motivated by loss. By the need to make King understand finally what it feels like to be powerless. And King does understand now. He understands perfectly. There's nothing to negotiate, King says. Victor doesn't want my money or my territory. He wants me to understand what I did to him. And the only way I can do that is by standing in front of him, completely defenseless and accepting what comes. As midnight approaches, King takes off his armor. Literally. He goes to his bedroom and removes everything that marks him as king. The expensive watch. The diamond ring forged from blood and suffering. His phone. He removes the shoulder holster that houses the gun he's carried for 15 years. He strips off the tailored suit that costs more than most people earn in a year. He looks at himself in the mirror. The man staring back is unfamiliar. Thin. Pale. Human. For 15 years, he's worn the armor of his position so well that he'd almost forgotten there was a body underneath. But now, naked and vulnerable, he sees clearly how thin he is beneath the power. How small. How fragile. Just a man. Just a father. Just someone who made terrible choices and ran out of time to fix them. He dresses in simple clothes. Jeans. A gray sweater. Nothing that marks him as anything other than what he is. Someone's father come to face consequences. He drives to the warehouse alone. The drive takes 40 minutes through the rain. King doesn't turn on music. He doesn't make phone calls. He simply drives and thinks and confesses to himself the things he's never said aloud. He confesses the coldness he's maintained. The distance he's created as a shield against feeling anything that might weaken him. The 7 years of Lillian's life he's missed by choice. By design. By fear of his own inadequacy. He was afraid that if he actually tried to be her father, he would fail. So instead he did nothing. He kept her fed and clothed and safe and imagined that was enough. It was never enough. The warehouse looms out of the darkness. It's exactly what King expected. Old, abandoned, the kind of place where people go to have conversations they don't want overheard. No lights. No signs of life. Just a hulking shape against the rain-soaked sky. Victor is waiting outside. He's tall, mid-40s, with gray threading through his dark hair. His face is weathered in the way of men who've carried grief too long. But his eyes are what King sees first. They're filled with devastation but also with something else. Something almost like pity. King steps out of the car and walks toward him. They stand facing each other in the rain, two men who've destroyed each other's worlds. You came alone? Victor says. Yes, King says. You came unarmed. Yes. You finally understand what you've taken from me. And King nods because he does. He understands completely. And he's ready to accept the consequences. Victor leads King inside the warehouse without speaking. They move through darkness, their footsteps echoing off concrete. The air is cold and damp and smells like abandonment. Then Victor stops at a door. He unlocks it with a key. Lillian is inside. She's sitting on a simple cot, surrounded by water bottles and blankets. She's been treated well. King can see that immediately. Victor didn't hurt her. Victor kept her safe. But her eyes are red from crying, and her small frame is curled in on itself with fear. She looks smaller than King remembers. More fragile. More real. When she sees King, something breaks in her expression. It's like watching a closed door suddenly open. Recognition and confusion and desperate hope all at once, colliding into a moment of pure vulnerability. Daddy? Her voice is tiny. Smaller than her body. Smaller than the storm raging outside. And King, ruthless, controlled, powerful King, falls to his knees. I'm here, baby. I'm here. He crosses the room and pulls her into his arms, and they hold each other. Lillian sobs, big, heaving cries of relief and trauma and the release of fear held too long. And King weeps silently, his tears falling onto her hair, his body shaking with sobs he can't control. This is not a moment of victory. This is a moment of complete devastation. Because King realizes that if he'd had to choose, truly choose, between his empire and this moment, between all his power and all his suffering, he would have burned it all down. He would have destroyed every business, severed every connection, become nothing. He would have offered himself instead of her. He would have traded places without hesitation. And he's furious at himself for not realizing it sooner. For waiting for Victor to force the realization on him. He holds Lillian tighter, breathing in the smell of her hair, feeling the small weight of her against his chest. She's real. She's safe. She's here. It's okay, he whispers, though he's not sure if he's talking to her or to himself. It's okay. You're okay. You're safe. Daddy's here. Victor, watching from across the room, sees something he didn't expect to see. Not the man who ordered his family's death. Not the crime boss who ran an empire without feeling. But a father. Just a father, broken and humble and completely, absolutely in love with his child. And something in Victor's face shifts. A softening. A release of tension held for 7 years. A moment of clarity in which he finally sees that destroying King won't bring his daughter back. But this moment of witnessing King's genuine, raw, unguarded love, maybe this is worth something. King continues holding Lillian, not letting her go, not looking at Victor, not thinking about what happens next. For the first time in his life, he's completely present in a moment. Everything else falls away. The empire, the power, the fear, the control. All of it dissolves like rain, leaving only this, a father and his daughter reunited, real. Take her and go, Victor says quietly. King looks up shocked. The words don't make sense. He was prepared for violence, for confrontation, for consequences, but not for this, not for mercy. What? King asked. Take her and go, Victor repeats. Leave the city. Leave your empire. Leave everything. Disappear. And we'll be even. King stands slowly, Lillian's hand still in his. The girl looks between her father and the man holding the key with confusion and fear. She doesn't understand what's happening. Why? King asked. Victor's voice cracks when he answers. Because I see it now. What I've done to you. What you've done to me. And neither of us wants our daughters to grow up with this kind of hate. He pauses, gathering himself. I had her for 3 days. I could have hurt her. I could have terrified her. Instead I kept her safe. I gave her food and water and blankets. I didn't touch her. I didn't hurt her. And do you know why? King shakes his head. Because she's a child, Victor says. Because she has nothing to do with what happened between us. And because somewhere, I realized that destroying you this way wouldn't bring my daughter back. It would only create another orphan. Another girl growing up without a father. And I don't want that. I don't want to create the same pain my daughter experienced. That's not justice. That's just perpetuating the cycle. King doesn't move. He's trying to understand the mercy being offered. He's trying to comprehend a world in which the man he wronged so deeply is offering him forgiveness. Or not forgiveness exactly, acknowledgement. Recognition. A way out. Go, Victor says again, and this time it's both a command and a release. A door opening. What? Be her father. Do what I couldn't do for my daughter. King wants to say something. To apologize. To offer restitution. To acknowledge the enormous debt he owes. To ask how a man wronged so deeply can find it in himself to show such grace. But there are no words big enough for what he's feeling. So he nods instead. He takes Lillian's hand and walks past Victor, out of the warehouse into the rain. He puts her in the car carefully, buckling her into the passenger seat. She's half asleep now, exhausted from fear and relief. She falls into a deep sleep almost immediately, her small face peaceful in the darkness. And King drives, not toward his penthouse or his businesses, but toward the highway that leads out of the city. Away from Seoul. Away from his empire. Away from everything he's built. The decision crystallizes as he drives, hardening into certainty. He will not return to his empire. He will not rebuild. He will not try to salvage any of it. He's going to walk away from all of it. His phone buzzes. Once, twice, 10 times. Frantic calls from Marcus. His empire is collapsing. His associates are panicking. The business needs him. Without his leadership, everything he built will crumble within days. King looks at the phone buzzing in his hand. Then he rolls down the window and tosses it into the rain. For the first time in his life he chooses something other than power. Within days, King's inner circle realizes what's happening. He's liquidating assets, transferring power, walking away completely. Money moves from accounts to other accounts. Businesses are transferred to trusted hands. The empire that took 15 years to build is being dismantled in a matter of weeks. Marcus tracks him down at a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. The apartment is sparse and ordinary. Nothing like the penthouse. Marcus enters without knocking, his face twisted with disbelief and anger and grief. "You're destroying everything you've built," Marcus says. There's no anger in his voice, just something like mourning. The sound of watching a man you've devoted your life to throw away the work of years. "Yes," King says simply. He's sitting at a small table with Lillian, helping her with homework. She looks up briefly, then returns to her math problems. "For what?" Marcus demands. "For a girl who barely knows you?" "For a daughter I'm finally going to know," King corrects. The conversation ends there, but over the next few weeks, King methodically dismantles everything. Not in anger or haste, but with the same precision he used to build it. He transfers control to Marcus, a man he trusts to be fairer, more measured, more human. He begins directing his money toward restitution. Victims of his crimes, families he's destroyed, people who lost everything because of his orders. It's insufficient. The harm is too vast. The suffering too deep. But he tries. And then he does something unexpected. He finds Victor. Not to kill him. Not to negotiate. But to offer restitution for Victor's family. Victor refuses at first. The money doesn't matter to him. It can't bring back what he lost. But King is persistent. Over weeks of conversations, King proposes something different. He establishes a foundation in Victor's daughter's name, a place to help other orphans, other children caught in the crossfire of organized crime. A place where kids who lose parents to violence can find shelter, education, hope. The kind of sanctuary his money can create, and his presence finally can support. Victor finally accepts. Not as forgiveness. Forgiveness would be too simple, too easy. But as acknowledgement. As two men recognizing that they can't undo the past, but they can try to build something better from its ashes. They sit across from each other one afternoon in the Foundation's office. Two men who destroyed each other's worlds, now building something different. "What will you do?" Victor asks. "Be a father," King says. "For the first time in my life, I'm going to actually know my daughter." The chapter ends with King signing final documents. Transferring his penthouse to Marcus. Selling his businesses. Liquidating the last of his liquid assets. He's becoming nothing in the eyes of the underworld. Nothing in the eyes of the empire he built. And for the first time in his life he's completely okay with that. King and Lillian move to a small house in a quiet neighborhood. Not luxury, not poverty. Just ordinary. A place where neighbors know each other's names. Where children play in parks without armed guards watching. Where a man can be a father without having to be a king. Lillian is different outside the city. She comes alive in ways King never saw in the penthouse. She loves art, not the kind that belongs in galleries but the kind that comes from inside her. She fills notebooks with drawings of dragons and gardens and impossible castles. She's shy around other children at first, hesitant and careful, but gradually as weeks turn into months she makes friends. Real friends. Girls her age who like the same books and games she likes. King helps her with homework, which he finds he's not very good at, but he tries. Math is beyond him. Science is a mystery. But he sits at the kitchen table with her every evening after school, working through problems together, and slowly, incredibly, he gets better. He learns that Lillian loves the color blue. That she's afraid of thunderstorms but tries not to show it. That she has a dry sense of humor that sometimes catches him off guard and makes him laugh unexpectedly. That she hums while she draws. That she takes forever to decide what she wants for dinner. That she's brave and curious and kind in ways that have nothing to do with him. They have breakfast together every morning. Not fancy breakfast. Cereal. Toast. Sometimes scrambled eggs that King makes badly. They take walks in the park. They sit in the backyard in the evening and she tells him about her day. About a girl in her class who said something funny. About a book she's reading. About the picture she drew in art class. Really talk. Not the distracted nods King used to offer, but genuine presence. He listens like her words matter. Because they do. One night, after homework is finished and dinner is cleaned up and the house is quiet, Lillian asks him the question he's been dreading and hoping for. "Daddy, why are we here? Why did we leave the big house?" King sits with this question for a long moment. How does he explain to a child that he had to lose everything to understand what he actually had? How does he make her understand that her father was a different person then? That he was broken in ways he didn't recognize? Because, he says finally, I was busy being someone important. I was so busy being a powerful man that I forgot to be your father. And I almost lost you because of it. And I realized that being important to you was the only importance that mattered. Lillian considers this, her small face serious beyond her years. Are you still a bad man? She asks. King is quiet for a long time. He thinks about the operations he ordered, the families he destroyed, the man he used to be. I was a bad man. For a long time. I hurt a lot of people. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm trying not to be any more. Are you trying hard? Lillian asks. The hardest I've ever tried at anything, King says, and he means it. And Lillian nods and takes his hand, and they sit together in the quiet evening. The garden is dark except for the light spilling from the window. The neighborhood is quiet. The world is small and safe and manageable. And King finally understands what he was missing all those years. Not control or power or the ability to bend the world to his will. But connection. The simple, ordinary, irreplaceable connection of truly knowing another person and being known in return. Of being loved not for what you can do or what you can provide, but for who you are. The chapter ends with Lillian asleep in her small bedroom, and King sitting outside her door, watching her breathe. He will never again take this for granted. A year passes and then another. King's old life becomes something like a dream, vivid in memory but increasingly unreal. His name still circulates in underworld circles, but as a ghost story. A man who had everything and threw it away. Some view it as weakness. A king who abdicated his throne and became powerless. Others see something in it they can't quite name. Something they don't have words for. One day Lillian asks him about her mother. She knows she has a mother somewhere. The knowledge comes to her gradually, through conversations with other children, through innocent questions about why she doesn't have a mommy when other kids do. Lillian was born to a woman King kept briefly, someone he cared about but never truly loved. When Lillian was born, King was already lost in his work, already building walls. He was afraid of the vulnerability that real connection required. And when Lillian's mother asked for more of him, asked for genuine partnership, asked him to be present, asked him to love her the way she loved him, King ended it. He offered money. A generous settlement. An arrangement. But not himself. Never himself. She took it and disappeared because that's all he was offering. King helps Lillian find her. It takes weeks of investigation. His old contacts are rusty but still functional. Eventually he locates her living in Busan, working at a hospital, living a quiet life. King sits down and writes her a letter. Not begging. Not explaining. Just the truth. I have a daughter who wants to know you. And I'm sorry for what I took from her. He receives a response within days. A simple message, I'll meet her. And then King does something that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. He asks for forgiveness. I took your daughter, he tells Lillian's mother when they meet in a coffee shop, and I kept her from you. I controlled the relationship. I controlled everything. Because I was afraid. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Lillian's mother, seeing the change in King, seeing that he's genuinely different, seeing a man who's not trying to control or manipulate but who's actually asking for forgiveness without expectation of receiving it, agrees to meet Lillian. And Lillian, who has lived her entire life without knowing her mother, finally meets her. She's nervous at first, shy. But her mother is patient and kind, and gradually, over the course of that first meeting, they begin to recognize each other. King watches his daughter with her mother, and he feels both loss and gratitude. Loss of the years they could have had together. Gratitude that he's finally gotten out of the way enough to let her have this. His daughter runs between them like a bridge, connecting two halves of herself, finally becoming whole. King's therapy begins here. Not forced but chosen. He finds a therapist and works through his childhood. His father's coldness, his mother's absence, the way he learned to believe that love was a weapon used against you. He works through his abandonment issues, his belief that control was the same as safety, his conviction that connection was weakness. It's slow and painful. There are weeks where he cries in his therapist's office, finally releasing grief he didn't know he was carrying. There are weeks where he wants to give up, where the weight of his own harm feels too heavy to bear. But he does it. For Lillian. For himself. The chapter is quiet, reflective. King is learning that redemption isn't a moment. It's not a sudden transformation that happens in a warehouse and fixes everything forever. It's a process. It's ongoing. It's daily. It's choosing over and over again to be better than you were. It's accepting that you can't undo the past but you can build a different future. 2 years after the kidnapping, King and Lillian have built a life. It's small, ordinary, unimportant by the standards King once lived by. but it's real. They have a house with a garden. Lillian wanted a garden, so King built one for her. He's never gardened before and he's not very good at it. The vegetables don't grow the way he planned. The flowers wilt in the heat. The herbs become invasive and overtake their designated spaces. But they keep trying. Every spring they plant again. They save seeds. They research better methods. And every summer some things bloom. Some things grow. Some things survive, and that's enough. Lillian is 9 now. She's in 4th grade. She's made real friends. Children whose parents King doesn't need to pay off, who like her for who she is, not what she has. She writes stories about dragons and princesses and adventures in faraway lands. She's learning guitar badly, her fingers still learning the shapes, her ears still learning the music. And King listens to every painful note without complaint. He listens like it's the most beautiful music he's ever heard. One afternoon they're sitting in the garden, Lillian reading a book under the shade of a tree they planted together, King watching her, and King has a moment of absolute clarity. This is it. This is what he spent decades trying to build. A world where he felt safe. A world where he had control. A world where no one could touch him. But it was all wrong. The safety he sought wasn't in walls and weapons and armies of devoted men. The safety was in connection. The control he needed wasn't over the world, but over his own choices. And the invulnerability he craved could only come from being completely vulnerable. From standing in front of another person with nothing to hide and nothing to protect. This moment right here. This is everything. Lillian looks up from her book. What are you thinking about? She asks. How much I love you, King says, and it's so simple, so ordinary that it feels revolutionary. It feels like a truth he's been discovering over and over again since that night in the warehouse. Like something he'll keep discovering for the rest of his life. Lillian smiles and goes back to her book. She doesn't say it back. She doesn't need to. It's already understood between them in the simple fact that he's here, that he's present, that he chose her. And King sits in the garden with his daughter, in the failing light of late afternoon, and feels something he never felt before when he was powerful and feared and in control of everything. Peace. The final image is not of a powerful man. Not of a king. Just a father. Ordinary. Present. Human. The king has abdicated his throne. And in doing so, he's finally become worthy of his crown. He reaches over and takes his daughter's hand. She squeezes back. And in that small gesture, in that connection, everything that King lost when he was climbing toward power is finally restored. Not because he won anything, but because he surrendered everything. The rain that fell the day his daughter was taken has long since dried. The warehouse is empty again. The city continues without him. But here, in this garden, in this ordinary moment, King has finally found something that power could never buy him. He's found himself. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe.